So, today we will be making we'll be finishing the calculator app. So that app I told you. Let me just quickly commit. Quickly commit. So I have this GitHub repository, so we can actually see all our code. Let me just upload some files. So the source code will be on in the repository. Yeah, and just quickly. Okay, let's see. Okay, here it is, Python calculator. So I am going to upload the .vs code files and the main.py. So all the VS Code settings I'm using is drag and dropped in there, and you can say that files we upload, and then we can commit our changes. Okay, so everything has been committed. So time to open up Visual Studio Code. So start always by opening command prompt. Okay, it's opening. Set command prompt there, and let's cd into our directory. Okay, let's try cd into it again. I spelled it wrong. Okay. And we have cd'd, and let's just open it with Visual Studio Code. Now here's where the problem hits. So it's opening it up with Visual Studio Code. So once it opens up this folder, it's opening it. So let's wait. Let me check my status. Okay, we are fine. Yeah, we are fine. So once we have uploaded that, let's go back to our CLI. And you can see we have our class calculator for I, range of self number none. No, we are doing everything, and we have actually done this. But we need to actually replace all of this code. So this calculator class will remain. All we have to change is this and the main function. Now the main function will not be there, because we need to run some commands. So pip install, we need to run pip. So if you don't have Python installed, you have to run pip. You have to install Python. So we run pip install the package name we're looking for. Now we're looking for Flask, and that is what we're going to store it. So it's do pip install Flask, or Flask with a small f. So it should start installing. Let me just pip install Flask with a small letter, so small f for Flask. Make sure if you've gotten it correctly, it should start installing. Okay. You can see that the Python extension is loading. So the VS Code is this Python extension, so it doesn't come built in into the system. You have to access like an extension for Python. So you can now program in Python. another thing to consider when installing Visual Studio Code. So all of this syntax highlighting you're seeing here comes from the Python extension in Visual Studio Code. So if you're wondering you're not seeing any highlighting, don't worry. So let's just press enter. Sometimes it may not work, it's just like Python. Okay, so if you can't see anything, check once the Python extension has loaded, make sure it is loaded, and make sure base is Conda. So if you have installed Conda, good for you. If you will not install Conda, you still need to run the install function. So if that is clear, we should be able to run import Flask. So you can do from Flask import Flask. Now if this fails, that means this pattern of Conda, the base, interpreter, virtual environment, you can switch to this the Python default, but this virtual environment promotes Flask. Actually it doesn't. So I think we'll have to run pip install Flask. No, it comes built in with Flask. So this built in integrated terminal. So this is integrated terminal for VS Code. It saves a lot of time. So yeah, to check. Okay, me up to something. Let's press enter. Try pressing enter in the terminal. See if it will work. And you can see that you can select things in VS Code. So you can select something and then you delete it, just basic functions. Enough of that. So first of all, we need to do app equals Flask. You need to do Flask like so and like a class, and then you pass in this attribute, so the one that you are referring to. So it will need a string, but there's a variable for that already, dash underscore name underscore. And you can see it's running conda activate base. It's going to activate this environment. So you can see once it has activated those, you should be able to use from Flask import Flask with no problem at all. Now you can do app equals Flask, and once you run Flask, you use underscore name underscore. Now we should initialize the Flask app. I don't get that into much. So we can say we import also render templates. Because render template will enable us to render templates. So there is something called templates, which enables to render HTML from external HTML files. So we can just do it normally like HTML, CSS. But for that to happen, you need to make a folder called templates. So templates. And templates is where we'll be storing our templates. But we only need one. So let's just make an index.html. And we start coding normally a style.css. A styles.css. And also an app.js, because we need JavaScript. And actually, so this is our static files, and we can use that. We use the exclamation mark syntax and press enter. And once you press enter, it gives you this HTML template. Now we have all the advanced features: the meta tag, the meta name, the content, the initial scale, everything that is needed to start off your HTML. Now, before the title, we need to make this, and I'm going to be organizing it by comments, because it's like a clean way to say. I'm just gonna type in required meta tags, required meta tags. So if you want this to fit well on mobile, you have to use this required meta tags. And also we can use this again. I'm just saying linking style sheets. Now this can be whatever you want, but this makes the HTML a little bit more readable. So notice here in this stage we'll be linking a style sheet. So we can just link. You can use the link tag, add a relationship, and set it to style sheets, and give a href, and you can use the /styles.css. So then after that we need to import some external scripts and styles. So let's go on our browser. So there's a framework called Ionic. So these kind of mobile apps, it gets easier to build. So you go to ionicframework.com, press enter, and we can use them for anything you want. Let me check, press enter. It's loading, sweet. Okay, so Ionic has loaded in. Let me just see if this works. Ionic is connecting. Are we okay? Viewers, tell me if you can hear me. Let's continue. Okay, it has loaded. So you can see one code base any platform now in React. So you can see that this is a framework we can use, but we can also use it in JavaScript natively. Well, let's just scroll down, and you know JavaScript has been the oldest type, so it has been the longest there. So only Angular, and it was fast, and then React. So you can see 100+ UI components. So you can see developers, enterprise, pricing, blog, resources. Now let me just check, are we okay? Okay, we are experiencing some issues. Okay, so you can see we have gone to one of our components. So you can see Shift-THPS. It has a lot of and you can start with let's click JavaScript, and that will be the native JavaScript. So no fancy thing like React and so on and so on. So you can see when you're JavaScript, this is for React and Angular. So let's just go all the way down, and you can see installation, CLI, installation. Let's go to CD, packages, and CDN. So you can see Ionic Framework CDN, and we copy these. So first I'm going to copy the style sheet because it goes fast in HTML always. Now once I paste it there, it's now a style sheet, part of the Ionic style sheet. And to make this better, it's going to be a live server. So let me just initialize the JavaScript in JS. So we are going to copy these two script tags, including these two script tags here. We are going to copy them and paste them right over here. So once we have pasted them right over here, I can let me just put another comment, and this is how you do HTML comments. You can say scripting, linking scripts, and now we'll be linking our JavaScript, and also we need to add our own script. So script, and then like so, and then use /script, and now this will work. So script/script, and you can add the source attribute, and you can always link it to ./app.js. So now we have actually, and dot slash makes it consistent, so you can easily reach it in saying in this current directory go to app.js. This is what the dot slash notation means. And if I control click to see if it works, it links me into the app.js. Now let me just go back into my main.py, and remember our if dash dash name equals name Bing, that will work. So if dash dash name equals main dash dash main, and we can just app dot run if we use the dot run method, and then you set debug equal to true. Now this is what it's going to do. So when I set debug equals to true, debug means that will be in a production environment. So if I actually run it, it should work. And in fact, because that we need to change some things. So instead of main.py, this is a special result, underscore init underscore py. So this tells Python this is a package. So you run it like a package. So you see underscore init underscore .py. Make sure that is the exact file name. Now you can see it just printing here, and this is what we will replicate in our JavaScript. So let me just quickly grab all of this code because it will almost be the same in JavaScript. Okay, let's go into our app.js and do that. And you can see, first of all, number one, this is in valid JavaScript code. You open and close curly brackets. So this is the difference between JavaScript and Python. So we're supposed to get the curly braces, and now we should be able to open and close and put all our functions here. Now, where I like to do it is instead of doing normal arrow functions like this, instead of passing self in, we pass a value called this. So I'm going to use a useful tool called Control F, and then we can actually, let's just undo our changes. Actually, wherever there's self, we can replace it with this. So because this is JavaScript, we can replace it with this. So let's just replace it with this. So we are actually replaced all the instances of that with this. Now the other thing to run is this curly brackets near the arrow functions. So you actually use like this. So you can use number is equal to this and equal to that. And you remove this colon and put curly braces, and this numpy won't be available. So we'll have to use a good old array decision element wise. So what we do is, you can see mp.add does something basically like this. So what does mp.add do? mp.add actually does this. And if you want to return multiple lines of code, you use that. So in this case, we want to be returning a for loop. So you can see this num1, this .2, num2. You can see that because this will add numbers, we'll be using this num1, this num2. So you can see for this so you can see we're going to be using a for loop. Now for loops are much more complicated than in just normal thing. So you can see this let I equal 0. Now we can't reach this code. So what we'll have to do is we'll have to return that array numbers. So we'll have to use a for loop, and the for loop is make sure this is curly braces and that, and you can use for let I equal 0, I is less than something. You see I plus plus. Now it actually took two numbers. So add numbers is actually how will I say it? So add numbers is actually going through each of the elements. So what it's supposed to do is we are supposed to use this dot num1 dot length. Now the dot length property seeing the length of any object, and then we can do I plus plus. And there's another way which is easier for you guys. There are two ways for you to do it, and now you can use for const, and you know the difference between const and let. Const can't be changed. In Python you can't just simply change anything, but in here it is designed for const and let. So depending on which one you want, you can use const or let. So as we correct this code out, I'll show you some fundamentals in JavaScript. This is a for loop, so this is very important for iteration. So when you're iterating through elements, you can iterate through them. Now for let I in 0 is just the same it's just something like in I in range. Yeah, in range, that is practically the same thing. So for I in range, but now we are using it in another way. So we can say for const number num in num1, so num in num1, and you use this notation so that it works, this dot num1, and then you can see this, it's complaining a bit, and it's saying it expected what is it called, it actually expects that. So if you actually done and return something, so you can see this, and you've assigned it as a variable. So you can use let or const, but this is a class variable. This is considered as a class variable, and you can see that it's saying this is expected of you. So if that happens to you, just use the function wisely. And I'm actually going to use this just to make the difference between Python and you can use function name, and you can use this code snippets, powerful code snippets from Visual Studio Code. And what we are going to call this function, we can say add numbers. So add numbers takes to take this as a parameter, and we can say for const num in this dot num1, or you can just access it like this, num1. Now it doesn't matter, num1 is here and declared as a variable, so you can use this dot num1, meaning this instance on it and num1. So you can see num1 and num2. And now once we have done that, we can actually do this, and you can see that this is being complained, so it's actually complaining in some parts. So you don't actually use this in a variable that has already been written. So it's something that has already been actually working sometime. You don't use that. You can just simply use op. And you can see this print function. That will be wrong, because what will print function do? Print function will actually print like this the paper of the page, so it won't work. But now we can see that we're gonna just simply change this by using our replace tool. So we're gonna look for def, where def is. We are just gonna expand this pop-up and replace them with function, because this is very, very similar to use this function and function and function and function and function. So actually this function will actually work. as you can see that the function keyword doesn't work. So if we make a reverse search, if then use function and replace it with nothing, this will work out. So now this is called a class method. So you don't need function and numbers. So function and numbers. You just use and numbers. So you can see for this in this dot num1, you can see num dot. So you can parse it. So you can pass it like you can parse it in. So you can add it. And then you see our number is basically, our input is basically an int. So all we have to do is we add a plus. Now what we have to do is, if we add a string, so if we take the num plus num, so there's something called type cohesion. So num plus, so if we try and add a string to an int, it will ring an error. It will ring an error. But if this is valid, num plus 1. Let's even experiment in Chrome, and I'll show you it is valid. So can type cohesion happens. So there's some type cohesion. Now let's just simulate that we are actually having the thing. Let's go into our console. And in our console tab, let me just Control L to clear the console, and we can use the console.clear command, either those ones. So if it works, it will work. So now, what you can do is you can actually use consts like this, num1, in the terminal, in the Google Chrome DevTools. So just hit F12. Or the Firefox DevTools, or the other browsers that you have, and you can see you can use something with document, but we actually just going to have it available and make it 123. Now if I use this 12345 plus num1, you can see that still returns a string. Yes, it will not error because of type cohesion. But if I actually do it the other way around, num1 plus 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, and you can see that it will actually print out 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4 equals of what we did there. So I can actually use, if you don't want to do a crazy type conversion, so you can use the 1, 2, 3, 4 equals plus, you can use equals plus num. So equals plus num, and this will actually turn it into an int. You can see invalid left in hand assignment. But if we actually make this another string, so const a equals maybe and then the piece and boop, and then you can use num1 equals plus a, and this is what is called type cohesion. So you can see that it will actually error. So if it errors for you, just use the parseInt function, and the parseInt function takes the string, which we can have a in here, and then the radix. The radix is the base you're going to be using. So if you're going to be using base 10, which is the one that we normally use, you can see it successfully turned it into an int. Instead of 3623, it returned, but if it was in 16, you can see 17, 18, and the number changes. So you can just use the base 10, and this will give you the correct result. So if it asks you for a radix, make sure you use base 10. Okay. So as I was saying, if it doesn't work for you, just use parseInt num. ParseInt num. now we don't need the this variable. So here where this is added, this we'll need to Control Shift R, refactor it, and we can just do that. And everything has to be removed. Okay, make sure that you Shift Alt. Let me just Control Z that. Let's remove this. We don't need this. It passes no arguments. We don't need this there. We do not need this. So we do not need anything, and you can see that now Python still now has the entire 5 errors. That's actually not true. And we'll also need to loop again through again const num, and this will be destroyed after the loop. Num is just referencing that variable, so it will actually be destroyed. So don't need this this string, and then you need to pass a radix. As I said, you'll need to pass a radix, which is 10, and then we can just have a variable. We can use let can use const because it never change. So const radix equals 10, and this is 10, so now this is base 10. So if I make it in 10, we can pass in the number. We're gonna pass in a number and the radix, like so. So we're gonna pass in the number and the radix. So radix and the radix here. This radix has been passed int. So now this pass int. Now after we have passed int, after we have passed the int, we have actually passed the int. Well, we needed to store it in an array. That is where arrays come in JavaScript. So you can just use const. We can make it a let because it is changing. So you can use let num1s. Let's call it num1s, and then we can let num2s, and this will be num2s, and then we'll be able to use num2s. And now we can use either of them. We can use num1 here, num1s, and set it equal to that. But then num1s is an array, so you can't actually, it's actually supposed to be an array. So what you do is you make sure you open and close empty square brackets just like in Python, and you can use num1s dot append. The dot append, you can use the dot value. You can there are many methods here, but we are actually going to look for this. So dot, and you can see we can just see dot, and you can see that there are a lot of things, and you can give some map length for each push. Now we can just push it, and you can pass in the percent, like so, by percent of num with a radix. So radix, and now the same to with num2s dot push. We can just cover this in curly brackets, and once you've done that, we actually use an element wise operation. So you can get results. Let result be an empty array equals to like so, and once you've done let result, we're going to actually use an element wise for results for now we're going to use for const num1 in num1s. Okay, and then again for const num2 in num2s. Now we need to do num1 plus num2. So we can use again result dot push to be pushing num1 plus num2. So num1 plus num2, and that is how you use that. And now once you've done that, and you can see that it's saying string, but it's actually an int at this point. So you can see num2, num1, and num2, and num2. And once we have actually done our process, we're going to return and we're also going to return the result. So that is how you use mp.add in that Python. So this will be very complicated. So you need to assign a base, we need to num1, num2, we need to pass the ints, and then after passing or using the int function in Python, will be actually ready to go. So this is the add numbers. Let's do for the subtract version. The subtract version will be the same. For this, it will be very similar. So let me just copy this. Very similar to this function, because it will be actually working. And because we did not use this .radix, we won't be able to use it. So we have to use the this.radix. So if you'll be making variables, you need to actually inquire this, and then same for subtract numbers, because we'll be making variables this, and once you pass in this, we are good to go. Just have to make sure it is take away. Same for multiply and divide. So instead of using this, we do not require this. We'll not be creating any new variables. We'll just be using radix at our hands, our fingertips. So we've used radix. So if you have used that, and you can see num1, num2s were developed in the input system. So with num1s will be an array of the num1s. So so you can see that we've gotten num1 and num2 together. So we are just gonna replace all of these variables blank. Only the result will be here. So we'll be pushing the past int versions of them. So we'll pass in num1 and num2, and that will work. So this will work. So we need the num1 and the num2, and this will work. So once you have done that, once you've configured it like that, all we need is to repeat this. So we need to repeat this. Now there's another way we can use this variable if you want, but if you want, you can use that in a method, and that will work. But if you can just declare right in the class, if you want. So if you want, you can just declare right in the class. So num1, num2, this will pass in. It will pass in. And we don't actually need num1 and num2 because we don't need them, because we'll be actually getting the input and doing that step by step. So we'll be making everything step by step. So we don't need this array of stuff. Now num1 and num2 are the arrays we'll be referring to. So actually num1s and num2s, those are the inted version. So we'll be pushing all the int functions. We'll be using those. As you can see that we don't need to mention those 2 times in a variable. But if it doesn't exist, we'll create our own local version. That's why I have not used a this here. So let me just Control Z. And we have our num1 and num2s. Now these parameters have been done like so, and we have for looped, so we have for looped and we have pushed them into that array, and we're gonna concurrently add and subtract them, and then this will work. So we can use that, and then multiply numbers, not heights. We're gonna use that, and let's use our thing. So you can see that, and you can replace it with nothing. Just Control Z that action, and let's continue on, and actually let's remove those. So actually that we have done like that, then we'll be actually using this method and using that for loop here, and we, instead of using subtract, we'll be using divide, and the multiplying numbers is actually going to multiply, and so it's going to return an array of results, and we're going to print them out to the screen. And also get input, that's our functions. So this is the kind of numpy part where things didn't work so well. You can see this will work, this will work, this will work. Now here is where the misconception is. You can see that this doesn't have anything. All we have to do is remove that, and when we need to actually use that. And instead of measuring these using that, if you're using len, instead of using len, you use the dot length prop. So dot length, again, you don't use the len function, dot length, and this will work. And now we have actually turned them into an int. But because we are adding the numbers and returning them at the end point, we do not need this for loop here. You can see for iron ranges now to OLED, we'll be actually wasting our time there. So we're supposed to actually comment this out, and now what we are left to do is with the control flow. Is the control flow of this JavaScript code. So the control flow is not how it's supposed to be. So this control flow is not valid. So you can see, let me just control X, and then I can use that, and then I control V. Let me just tab everything in so that it corresponds inside the function, and let me just now start redoing the if statement. This if statement loop is necessarily very long in JavaScript. So we're gonna leave them with print statements the way they are. But you can see this if, and then what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to reference just using that. And because it will be creating new variables, you need to pass in this like a parameter, and then you can use just up like so it's globally available. And then you can open and close curly brackets. So this is going to be the hard part. So we are just going to leave it like so, and then you can see this elif. Now this elif keyword did not exist in Python. You use else if, and then after that you use the thing that you went to condition like so, and then open and close curly brackets, and then we can use that, and then we can pass in like that and like so. Let's continue working with this. So we'll have quite a lot of else if, and we can just use now else if. So now we need to open and close curly brackets like so, and then this will be replaced by curly brackets, and let's copy this. Let's control X print statement and control V it in there, and now let's continue doing that till we are done with this mess. So we are about to finish, we are just about to finish correcting our JavaScript code for it to work. So this is about 107 lines of JavaScript code, So this will work. And finally, so what have we done? We have actually turned this from just something that is invalid. Let me check the problem here. Unresolved import Flask. Now, if that doesn't work, you have to actually pip install Flask. And we are actually almost done. So once it is installed Flask, make sure you have everything ready, because now this is the momentarily moment. So once we have actually this pip, so pip is going to install just like npm. You can see requirements already satisfied. So make sure that if that makes you cry, change to the 3.82 bits version, because that will work. Change your Python interpreter from the menu here. So pop up a menu, and you can see this Python 3.6.7 Thrive 3.8.3. If that doesn't solve your problem, make sure that you have actually installed it. So you can see that requirement already satisfied. Check if you're in your interpreter and run pip install again. It should not crash. At least let's wait. Now it's going to say requirement already satisfied. Now try the smallest version. So you can see that it's saying requirement already satisfied. Now try and change your interpreter to the 3.7 base content. Make sure you're in that interpreter and they shall disappear. Oh yeah, I know. You just use the small f. That should not vary. So that should not cry. And then you can use the @decorator app /.root.route, and then you can use the def keyword that's defining a type, and you can this is Python, so you can just say render, and which is one function, and then you can render template index.html, and it takes a path, and you can see / but we can say template /index.html, and it's going to render that index.html for us. So if we run this script, it should show the index.html, which is an empty page for now, but we have actually implemented most of the UI. So this UI is actually most of the UI has been implemented. So the functions have been implemented, most of the logic. So all we need to do is I actually need to make sure this is indented a bit. So we're just gonna take this, and this is actually going to work. So let me just shift tab, and you can see that you can switch files, but I want to shift tab ourselves, and let's tab in once. Now this is going to solve that problem where it looks like as if it's going in. Now if the problem is still lingering, make sure that your class is actually having a closing place. So make sure your class is closing. But you can see it's saying declaration or statement expected. Now in that case, you'll have to actually shift tab this code and then tab it. Now the for loops get a little bit messed up, so make sure you fix them. The tabbing on if statements get a little bit messed up. So if you have a lot of logic, make sure you fix it, because if it's not indented properly, it will result in some kind of error. So keep that in mind. So I'm just gonna tab this whole function in by one, and then I can see that this function is also having some problems. You can see that. Okay, we're ready. Let's just tab in this function. So you're almost done with most of the logic. Now all you have to do is fix your code out. Okay, here we are. Let's select all of this code and tab it in by one. Let's tab it in by one again, because this will actually work in JavaScript, but we're not looking for that. So you can see that this else if is fine. You just have to tab everything in, and you see that this check input is just actually okay. So fix the inner contents, and then we actually just this to work. So now we have actually done the correction on the tabbing, and once you're done with that correction, let's go back to our underscore init underscore the pi, and we are about to run this file, but we can delete this calculator class, which who needs it now. Now we don't need the calculator class because we've taken it into JS. Now we don't need it, and the only thing we need to do is this piece of logic. Now let's Python, and with this current setting, it will not work. Now we need to make this take advantage of DOM manipulation. Now this will print it out so to work. So let's just open this up in the browser. Now let's bring it up to the light. Let's bring it up, and it's already opening, and it's waiting for the JS delivery.net. You can see that it's empty. Even the F12 menu doesn't show anything. You can see unexpected token in the second line of code. So in the very second line of code, there's an unexpected this. So this here is not allowed. So the only thing you can do is radix. You can put it up here in the class, and that will work fine. Okay, you can also and you can do index.html alone in the init.py. So you can see index.html is not going to work. So you can just index.html, and this will work. So we have our index.html here, and just to make sure, I'm gonna use the templates root. That's why I made sure that it will work. The only way it will work is if you use your template root. So templates, and you can see template name or list. Now let's give it HTML, and this is the name of the template. So we're going to actually just render it out. Now this app.js, you can see that now index.html, it is referred to, but we don't want that to happen. So anything that includes adding a new this, they have a lot of thises in here. So this will be, you know, we can just control F this and replace it with nothing. That's how it works. So when you want to remove something, you just remove the this token from them. Let me just undo that. Quickly. No, don't want that to happen. So we have actually see that these variables have actually this will work. So if we actually work, now this will work because it's already defined as a method. All we have to do is refer it with this. Here we'll have to refer it with this because there's no way it will work without this. So without this method, this class method won't exist to the computer. That's why it will work. So num op, and that will work here only if I can instantiate it. So you can see that when I instantiate it, in fact, because we are actually done, and this is how we do it. So radix equals 10, we have done everything, and we need a constructor for these things. So immediately when the class is created, there's something called a constructor, same to the init function in Python. So we can now just call these things inside the constructor. And now we have called them inside the constructor. We don't need this query chatting thing. And you can see everything looks pretty neat. Now let's get input function does not have to exist. So now we have reduced our lines of code. As you can see, you can put comments, maybe doing some documentation stuff. But for the most part, let's try Python __init __the_py. You can see that. Let's try running that script, and you can see now Python. Now Python is seeing that restarting window, and you can see that it has actually opened for us a link, and you can see that check your spelling and try again, and you can see that it got a GET request, and if I try again, you can see it gets some HTTP.101, but it gets a 404. So the debugger is active. That actually we haven't, actually like added the root. So if you check out the Flask documentation, because this is what it is using, so you can see Flask documentation and Flask just so come here and you install. You can come here and you can see routing, so routing, and you can see that it gives a route. That is why it said 404. If it says a 404, you page that it cannot be found, so it cannot be actually found. So you can just change it from here to nothing. So please, you can change it from nothing to a slash. Now that will make the server restart. As you can see, it is complaining that it is an invalid parameter. Yeah, we put it as a function here, and you can see that you can put a string and you can put the methods that you can accept here. No, but we are not API, so just use a slash, a forward slash, and make sure you restart your server if it fails. __init __the_py. So __the_py, and this .py file will actually open it. So it's running it on localhost. Let's see what is happening at localhost. You can see that we get a type error, and this is, you can see that the function either returned either none, or it returned none, or nothing. That's what it's trying to say. We did not return anything. So what we're supposed to add is the return value here, and it's detected the change and will now restart. So we can now, the server is back to life, and we can just open it like so and actually see what we've gotten. And you can see it has the document name, which we got from our template here, which is familiarly similar. And once you've created our class, and you can see that you can actually now get imports is actually going to be manipulating the DOM. So you can see enter and operators, you'll be using all of that with nothing. So Control F, where this import, replace it with nothing. Now, where is import called as a function with a curly brace, replace it with nothing. So you can see those are the places, and we can just replace it with nothing. Now we can see that you can actually use the split method. Now we can use the document get element by ID, and we're gonna call it the value, and this will be adding again. This is manipulating the DOM. So the DOM is our document object model. So DOM stands for our document object model. So document is like your HTML document, but in a JavaScript object. So that's what DOM means. So if anybody says DOM, they're referring to document object model. Is this? That's why it's written document dot. Now document is the object model. So this document variable is the object model. So I'm just gonna do that 3 times, and we're gonna say we can just say num1 input, num1 dash input, and then we're just gonna copy and paste here num2 dash import, and then we can do op slash input, and this is what we're gonna do. So we are just gonna say for, I'm gonna make an elements array, so we put num1 here, num1, num2, and op, and once you're done that, you can use a for loop. So for elements in elements, and we're gonna loop through all of them and add an event listener. So you can say element dot add event listener. This is what we are gonna do. So you can see that let's boot op dot add event listener. So you can see that actually we have things. So you have op, and actually we'll need this. So if your autocomplete doesn't sense it, just replace this part with this variable, and this variable will make sure that it's actually mentioned as a variable, so it will work. It just so let me just Okay, so as I was saying, we'll be making the document object model to react fetching things. So if it doesn't work, make sure that you add the this variable if you don't see this. Now if I use op now dot add event listener. So for variables, you should be able to add event listeners to them. So all inputs will be added event listeners to them. Now what I've done here is I've done op input, and now you can see that I've added an event listener, and if I use an empty string, we can check if the operation was clicked, and you can see if on change. So we can take an E, and this is what we'll be doing. So this is what we'll be doing. So I will read it. So we can use this dot elements or let's elements. Yay, let's elements. Let's make it a const. Okay, let's make it a const. And now elements, we can use a for elements in elements, element in elements. So for elements in elements, and we'll be make sure it's a const. For const element in elements, you can use element dot add event listener. Event listener. For click, let's add for on change, on dash change. Now on dash change, we'll take in an E, and the following will be done. So this E variable will be targeting the E dot target of value. So that is what we'll be getting. What we'll be wanting, E dot target of value. Now we can actually get this very easily. So we can have a this, then the let, and the const. So once we're done constructing the class, this will no longer exist. We will not need the input unless we are actually reading this. We actually require, and we put this in front of it. We can see element of add event listener, and the tool take a function, and this function will happen to store it in an array called values. So instead of num1 and num2, we'll be using this dot values as an array. Now this values array will have a values dot append dot push. It will be pushing things. So items any, and we can actually put the E to target the value. Now E dot target dot value, and this will be it. So once you're done with that for loop, we'll be filling the array of that, and then we can now add our numbers. But then we'll have to use values. So for const num in this the values, I'm gonna put values here, and values again. Okay, using list of values. Let me check back. Yeah, guys. Okay, let's check. Okay, so let's come here, and then you see the many things here. Now we need to actually find a way to loop through each value. Now there's no value 1, value 2, which all accumulated in one array. So there's that unchanged element, and that will bring all the values together. So we don't need two for loops. So anywhere that says for const, so for index in curly brackets, so where it only says for. Now there'll be pretty much many places that say for, and then no, like const num in num2 num2 and then calibrate, and inside of that like this, well, num2 dot percent. So you can see that it's saying no results for those, but you can see num2's dot push, close and open and close curly brackets and that, and then you can put num radix. So this is the scope we can use. So this is scope, and we can use this replacing algorithm to make it replace with nothing. But for the first some errors, it could be eliminating each of these like for loops. So you can see we are getting up into the result. I mean, we need less space, but storage space, meaning we only need one array. So that will give us a lot of performance. So for, I'm gonna say maybe for value in values, like so, values. So you can see for divide numbers, now you can take num1s, and then you can actually take the result of push, and you're gonna just, that one is going to loop 2 times. So this will save a lot of time if I made this an array. So let me just go back into my constructor. Where's our constructor? You can see this, the values is an empty array, so it will work. So you can see that like for every of these like red parts, these are the errors. So you can just remove all of these plus the num2 array if we want, because we're not having num2s, and actually it's for use a for loop, and we can use this. So for let's actually go into the server running. So the running, let's see, so the server is running, and we have not actually instantiated the class. So because you have 9 errors, it would allow us. So we actually no working. So for value in values, now we can actually do something with it. So we can use results.append, no results.append, append the value divided by values. So we are looking for a specific like group. So you can see that we have this in our constructor. We're having some bit of code. So we're just adding an event listener to onChange, and we're just adding this as a value. As you know, because we are adding a event listener each thing, so each E and the OP hasn't changed. We'll have some BTN being pressed, some button being pressed, and let's not mind about the logic for now, but let's actually mind about the UI. So I'm just gonna disconnect the script, and there are some components that this like ionic library has given us. So let me just open this as a side view. Okay, so we have the ion app, so we have the ion dash app component, and then we have the ion header, and then we have the ion tooltip element, tooltip, and then we have you can see that we have a tooltip, and then we have an ion element. So we have an ion calculator. So we have an ion dash text, and that says hello. And this compilation to that for is because we need this jsdeliver.net. If I actually click this, it will actually take me to the CSS for it. So there's a lot of CSS here, and there are a lot of CSS variables. This is just because it's minimized. It has been minimized so it doesn't stand out too much. So you can look at one of the app templates. Let me just so if we go all the way here, and you can see that it's this building your fast app. So you can see that this is how it will look like. Even in vanilla it can look like so. And then we can actually, this is for Angular, so let's just go back into structures, and in the structure you can see that ion header, ion toolbar, and then in the CDN section, make sure that you have actually tried CLI installation if you want, and you can see that type equals module in the no module in the link, and the way we follow each other is important. So if we put the link somewhere, so if the link works, you will see that the CSS here is you can see that the access to CDN can get delayed, the following inside the away external asset are included in the code editor. So they requiring us to put this in the head. But make sure if you're putting scripts in the head, they take a really long time, because what happens when the browser is parsing your HTML, it will actually start. So make sure you're using the D4. The D4 tag will make it having to stop, wait, just continue through the HTML content before even stumbling about the JS. It will download after parsing HTML and CSS. So at least the video can have something, and make sure that make sure it's good. And let's just use the slash, and you can see we have our hello. They have a small hello tooltip, and you can see that let's come here and not theming, it's just into starting. So if you see the starting, it will ask you if this is for Android and all of that stuff. We are looking for like something like here grid and structure, and you can see that it will look like something like this. So you can see ion title, ion thing, and ion text. Now this ion text widget is one of the widgets including in ion text. Let's go into our index.html file, and let's change it to ion title instead of this. Now you can see that the web version, if I reload and if I make sure that it's as the slash port, it's the slash port, you can see that it is a lot bigger. Let me just get out of here, skedaddle out of there, and you can see that this ion app surrounding. So this has been surrounded by the ion app widget, the ion app element, and then the ion header, and then the ion toolbar, and then the ion title. You can see the ion toolbar. Make sure it's not tooltip toolbar. So the toolbar is where it is. Now if I actually let me just where are we? Let's see, let's try and see where we are. So you can see that there's this server, it's running on this URL, and if you go to that URL, it looks white at the moment, but if I hit F12 and I click on device and then I change it to something like iPhone X, you can see if I really zoom in, if I zoom into fit the window, fit, let's just zoom into 100%. So this how it will look like. So you can see hello as a tooltip there, and looks like they updated it, and you can see that you can see footer and header and footer, and you can see that it can be combined on one page to make it move above and below the content. Now we have one ion header, and once you have the ion header, I think so, let's construct our ion app. Now our ion app, our ion content. Now this ion content widget is the ionic content. So we have some ionic content. So you can see that this ionic content, maybe let's go back to the ionic tab. I'll be returning to the documentation. Let me click on there, and let's go here, and let's go to responsive grid. And this responsive grid, you can see that ion grid, ion grid. So you can see that ion row, ion column, ion column, ion column. So let's just copy that file system, that row system, so we can have an ion grid. And this look, I like it. So let's do ion card. So this is a card element, and they have an API. This is just the docs getting started thing. Did you know there is some /API? So you can now click /API, and here are all the elements. So ion action sheet, ion alert, ion app, ion card content, ion card header. So these are the ones that come associated with an ion card. So maybe you want ion card content, and this will be your content for your ion card. You can see here that we have some ion card content, and this will be having an ion grid. And don't worry, you can usually integrate them with normal HTML. You can have an ion column, and you can see that let's see, you can check for call, images, infinite scroll, item divider, item picker, ion radio. You can see that there are a lot of things. But if you want, you can check for if there's a lot of elements that you can use in the web component library. So you can see now this is an ion column, and let's also have an ion, actually an ion row. So /ion row, and this ion row, we maybe have an ion column, and this column will have a button element of 9, and you can see that 9 can appear on the screen. If you check in the content, let's check here, and let's close this dev tools. You can see there should be something like so. So you can see that we have an ion content, an ion card, and an ion API index, and you can check for all the cool things that you want. So ion card title, here our ion card. You can click on that and you can see that how it will look like. Here you can see this very cool UI. You can see that ion card content, you can see ion card chapter, you can see that it's an ion card header. So if you have an ion card, you can see that ion card header, card title, card subtitle. You can see that it looks like so, and you can see that you can see I can label, and you can see that card button item 2. Now we can see those like labels because we have got view the source here, and you can see that the source on what they created, how they created it, and a lot of things about that. And you can see that you have an ion, this is the source. So how you, an example of this, we have the ion card, ion header, and we have the ion content, we have the ion card itself, we have the ion card header, and we have the ion card title, we have the ion card header again, the ion card content. So ion card header and ion card content, and that ion card content will work. So that is perfect for us. So you can see before even implementing our grid, we should consider ion card header. So let me you should be able to consider ion card header. So ion card header, and for it to work, we are gonna have some lines as an example, and make sure you've reboot your server, make sure you've reboot your server, and it should work. So if I integrate the grid, as I was saying, the HTML content has changed. Let's reload and see what's going to happen. So this 9 button, and you can see that there are a lot more things you can do here. So you can see that we have an ion grid. Now we have a column, and these columns can be easily made into more columns. So ion column, and then we have a button 9, we have a button 8 and 7. So we're gonna call this 8, and they're gonna call this 7, and we're gonna make another ion row, and then another ion row, and we are just going to see a lot more lines. You can see that we're making a grid of buttons. Now this grid of buttons is going to be perfect because we can have 6, 5, and 4. And actually, let's just create more rows. So another row, and then 3, 2, 1. So 3, 2, 1. And if I reload the web page, you can see 987654321. Now that is the standard UI. And notice this is responsive. Check this out. So this is a responsive app. So if I shrink the web page really small, you can see that it will still kind of work. Now we want this card length not to be too long, or else that will ruin our thing. And this not to be too, we need to enlarge in these numbers. And you can see this kind of spherical, so that works. So let's just select them in CSS. So in CSS, Let's select them. And we're gonna give them a class or ID. Yep. Now I'm not know about you can select them via classes if you're going to add them many times, but we're not gonna have them many times in our template, so we're just gonna select it the good way. And meaning I'm gonna use ion app, ion, and this is still very specific, and ion content, and ion card, and you can see even the control structure. See, that is very specific. And now you can see ion card, and you can see that it's saying select the specify, so it is 3 times. It's very specific, and that is a good way of making your CSS, make it as specific as possible. So we have our ion card, our ion content, and our ion app. And now what are we supposed to do? We're supposed to edit the width and height. So that's what we were going for, 100 pixels, to make it 100 pixels width. And you can see that it does not know how to actually make it 100 pixels. So you can see the width, I can make it as small as I want, even negative 10 pixels, and that thing really kinda is adjustable. So we need to remove most of the padding. So padding, we need to remove some of it, because I think it's the size of it that needs to be controlled. Now this is default padding. Now if I put negative 10, I think 10 pixels padding, it will reduce just by a little bit. But if I put negative 100 pixels and I actually reload my changes, you're going to see that it's not going to do anything good. So if I save and reload, you can see that really good interface. Now we want to add, for between these ion columns, we need to add a class of ion padding. So ion padding, you can see that ion padding, what does it do? It adds a little bit of padding. Well, that's what I want in my content. So let's go all the way up in my ion content, and we can give a class of ion padding. Now this class of ion padding is what we're going to do. And voila, this app is already needed. It's already almost neat. So this is actually almost the design ending. Now all we need to do is find a way to style the buttons. Now we can just make sure we have in our style.css, you can just say that the button, and let's give them all a class of calculator button, calc button, and make sure you remember this class name, first class calc button, and this calc button, make sure you add them on all the buttons. Calc button, and then again the class of calc button, and we are going to do this for everything. So for everything, calc button. Let me check if we are okay. Are we okay? Okay, let's check. So here we are. Let's continue doing this until calc button, and again class of calc button again, and that's until we finish, and we finished calc button, and we're taking this design from my Windows calculator. So let's check out the Windows calculator, and everything see, and let's just check out the calculator here. Okay, let's check. Okay,